Welcome to this edition of Buncombe Life. I am so glad that hard winter is over and we are outside here on a beautiful day out in one of the neighborhoods here in Buncombe County, and I'm with Helen Hall, Animal Control Director.
Correct.
For Buncombe County. And we're going to talk about animals today because Buncombe County has a new animal control ordinance. You can find that online at buncombecounty.org. But there's a few things that you're having trouble with that we want to go over and some stuff that you guys need to know. So sit back, relax, enjoy this with us. Helen, I know there's several things I want to make sure we talk about. One, though, is near and dear to your heart, and that's the leash law.
Yes.
Explain that to folks at home.
Okay, what the leash law is part of the ordinance that covers what you can and cannot do with your pet while it's off of your property. Meaning, if your animal leaves your property, it has to be under your physical control. There's been several different variations to that, such as if the animal was under your voice commands, it could be off your property. Or if the animal was on adjoining property, it could be off the property, but not anymore. Now it has to be under your physical control.
So the new law says, let's say that I have, I want to talk about cats in a minute. Let's say I have a dog and I am out in my yard with the dog. Does it have to be on a leash while I'm in my yard?
No, ma'am. No. As long as you're in your yard, your dog does not have to be on a leash.
But let's say we step out of the yard in a beautiful neighborhood like this and we decide to take a walk up the road. I need to clip a leash on that dog.
Yes, ma'am. Take a walk up the road, take a walk on walk trails, take a walk at a dog park.
Aha.
Your animal needs to be on a leash.
That's another key thing, because out in Buncombe County there's lots of these now, but definitely in the city of Asheville now that's a little different, but we want to talk about that too. There's a lot of dog parks.
Right.
That doesn't mean as soon as I get there I unclip it and it can run free.
No. We have a lot of animal attacks, animal to animal, animal to people. That occur because someone just takes their dog to a park or to a dog walk or to a walk on walking trails, and they'll let their dog off lead and their dog attacks another dog or a person.
Right, and then they're in deep trouble.
Yes, they are in deep trouble.
And I know even during some festivals downtown, the dogs need to be on those leashes because they can go. Even if you think your dog is just super sweet and always with you, you never know what's going to set them off.
No. Or you never know what's going to set another dog off, and if your dog's not close enough to you, you may not be able to do anything to stop the attack.
That's exactly right. Okay, so if we're going to go on a walk, I need to keep it on a leash. If I'm in a dog park, on a leash. Now what, like I said, we're going to talk about cats in a minute, but what happens if, okay, my dog gets out of the fence, goes running off, and you pick it up? Animal control, one of our great animal control officers, finds the dog running loose. No collar, because if it's out in the yard, a lot of people don't have the collars on.
Right.
What happens to the animal?
Okay, we like for the dog to have a collar just simply because there is the rabies law and the dog has to have a rabies collar, a tag on the collar at all times. Unfortunately, as you said, we don't always do that. A lot of dogs do not like to wear a collar, so they're out, they're running around. We find the dog out, we'll scan the dog, see if it has a microchip. If it has a microchip and we can return it to the owner, then we will.
Okay.
And at that point, we will not charge the owner for the first offense for the animal running at large.
Right. So if you pick up my dog and you scan it and you find, and you take first of all, you take the animals to the shelter.
No, we scan it first.
Okay.
Yes.
That's key.
Yes.
So you scan the dog when you find it, comes up, ooh, this is who it is, you return it and say, look, don't do this again.
Right. Don't do it again.
What? That's very nice.
Well,
that's good. That's a good service, actually.
Thank you. What we're trying to do, one, is keep the number of dogs going to the shelter down.
Right.
Because sometimes your dog you may let it out and you may let it run, and we hope that you don't, but you might. And it may not come back for a couple of days, and you may not know that it's gone.
Right.
You may think it's out visiting the neighbors or whatever, and then 3 days passes, you finally think, well, I really need to contact the shelter. And at that point, it may be too late because the shelter only has to hold an animal for 3 days.
This is key. This is something I've just learned and you guys need to know. And we're going to talk about microchipping in just a minute too. But let's say your dog doesn't have a microchip.
Correct.
It gets out the fence accidentally or runs out the door or whatever, like you said, is running loose. Y'all pick it up, no microchip. It does go to the shelter.
Yes.
If there's no microchip, no collar, no way to notify an owner of the animal, you only have to keep it.
The shelter only has to keep it for 3 days.
For 3 days. And then after that 3 days, you guys can adopt it out or
humanely euthanize.
Worst case scenario, humanely euthanize. That's huge. That's huge. Not a lot of span of time.
No. Which is the main reason that we came up with the idea of having people microchip their pet.
Right.
And if we do pick up your dog, it's running at large, and you happen to think, okay, I get home today, my dog's not where it normally is, it may have broken out, because we do have
Right.
escape artists.
Sure.
Your dog happens to break out and it takes off, and we pick it up, or someone else picks it up, takes it to the shelter, so it doesn't get hit by a car or something. Before it leaves the shelter, it will be microchipped.
So if within that 3-day span, or
Yes,
4 if the
yes.
dog happens to still be there, you call and say, I want to come see my dog. You go down there, you find your pet. Is that when you microchip it? You say, I want to get my pet back. They can't get their pet back until it's been microchipped.
Absolutely. And can I add in there, if a person comes home and they find that their dog is not there,
Right.
they should immediately contact the shelter.
That's huge.
And
yeah.
they should file a missing animal report. A lot of people will call us, and we'll take the report, but we'll also have them call the shelter, because the shelter will be looking for that animal. And,
Right.
you know, like I said, it may not be animal control that takes it in. It could be the city of Asheville's animal control. It could be a neighbor.
Right.
Or someone just doesn't know where
finds
the dog
an
belongs.
animal in their yard and goes, I don't want this.
Exactly.
Takes it to the shelter.
Exactly. In addition to that, I say that you should go to the shelter every other day and look at the animals, because what you think is a pit mix, someone else may think is a lab mix or a chow mix or
Right.
some other type
And
of
it's
dog.
your dog, and they don't
Exactly.
recognize it.
Exactly.
So you don't automatically microchip animals that come to the shelter.
No, we do not. However, if you come to claim your dog, then it will be microchipped before it leaves the shelter.
Right. So this is not going to happen again.
Exactly. And the reason for that, again, is last year we had almost 12,000 calls for service in animal control. Yes, ma'am. Just in Buncombe
Wow.
County. That is a lot of calls.
Yes, it is.
And when you figure that animals running at large were probably about 5,000 of those calls, and I mean, out of the animal bites, the running at large, dangerous animals, cruelty to animals, barking dogs, injured or sick, animals running at large was the largest number of calls that we received. Then
Right.
we had to come up with a way to, one, lower the numbers of animals taken to the shelter, because we are trying to make it to where no healthy animal is euthanized.
Right. That's just not a good solution for anybody.
No, it's not. And then two, we're trying to make it to where our officers do not keep picking up the same dogs.
Right. And so the animal will be microchipped before you can get it back, and there's a fee for that.
Yes, $10 fee. Yes, ma'am.
That's the deal. And
It
then,
is a deal.
And then
It's a
there's
good deal.
probably a fine to get your animal back at that point.
Well, what they'll have to do is they'll have to pay the fees the shelter imposes, which means if it's been there for 2 days, then it's got room and board for
Right.
2 days. And if the animal control officer places a citation on it for maybe running at large, not being spayed or neutered, or not having its rabies vaccination, then the officer will take care, or the shelter will take care of giving a citation to the person.
So the most humane, the smartest thing to do now, if you have an animal that you love, is to get that animal microchipped. However, is it expensive? Is it dangerous? Does it hurt the animal? It sounds painful.
Okay. It is somewhat. It is somewhat.
Yeah.
And I would say that depends on the size of the animals. I've
Right.
been to the clinics. We have a clinic the last Saturday of every month, and we do offer microchipping if people would like to have their animals microchipped.
Right.
And during this time, we do see that some smaller dogs, it does hurt a little bit, but it's just for that minute.
Not a big deal.
No, it's like any shot.
Okay. And it could be the life of the pet, really.
Seriously, it could be the life of the pet.
So it's a tiny little chip that goes under their skin, I think under their...
Right here,
Oh, it goes in there.
in the nape of their neck, the same
Okay.
place that we put the rabies vaccinations.
Okay. Now there was, some years ago, there was tattooing. Animals could be
Yes,
tattooed.
yes.
Do they still do that?
I know that the Humane Alliance does when they spay or neuter.
Okay.
We do not, simply because we don't have that option available to us.
But that would work too. If one of the officers finds a dog and it's tattooed in a way that could get the animal back to the owner.
It would, because then we could go back through. The only thing is, and I stress this, the Humane Alliance puts a tattoo on the animal so that they can tell that it has been spayed or neutered. That
Right.
doesn't give the information of the owner, which is what we need.
Really, so microchipping is still the optimum. Just for folks out there that may have their animals
Yes,
tattooed,
yes.
microchipping is still optimum.
It is to us, because we can call the company that the microchip comes back to and get the information on the owner.
Okay.
Now, I do request that if you have your animal microchipped, if you move or change your telephone number, that you contact the person who your microchip is through to let them know.
Right. Okay. So they know how to get you guys connected in case the dog gets
yes,
loose.
exactly.
Okay. There's tons of information like this on our website, so if you've missed any of this or want to know more about what we've talked about, buncombecounty.org is a key there. I've just got to ask you though, you got to have your pets under your control at all times. What about cats?
You know, that's impossible at times. It seems to me like I have a cat. Actually, my husband has a cat.
Yeah.
And the cat came with him to our marriage.
Yeah.
So we, you know, he takes the cat outside and he's got a leash. She does not like that leash.
Oh no.
And she will fight him over that leash. It's not easy to do, however, it is something that still has to be done. You have
to keep your
control of your
animal.
cat,
It's
yes.
not just dogs, it's cats too.
Yes. I am dealing with a woman right now, bless her heart. She has had to replace every piece of furniture on her back deck because the neighbor's cat has tore up her furniture. So we loaned her a humane trap to trap the cat. She trapped the cat, the neighbor came over and let it out. So now we're looking at charges, possible charges of trespass for the neighbor.
So see what's happening out here? This is not just to protect your animal, it's protect your neighbors and then protect you from legal charges that could come because of something your animal does that comes natural to it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this is nothing new. I mean, this is, since we took animal control 3.5 years ago, this is the same. So I don't want anyone to think that this part of the ordinance has changed because it has not. We have the right, if your animal bites someone, to make you get $100,000 insurance, liability insurance. We also have the right to put protective measures on the animal, and we have the right to seize your animal and take away your ownership rights if you do not do what is necessary to protect the public.
So when you just boil the ordinance down, there's just a few little tiny steps they could take and everybody would be better off.
Yes,
Keep your
thank
animal
you.
on a leash.
Yes.
Get it microchipped.
Yes.
You know, keep it under your control and everything will be fine. Your calls will go down and then you can go to those places where they are having some serious trouble and you guys need to address those issues.
Exactly.
So let's stop for a minute and say, when, I'm not sure everybody at home knows, when should they call animal control? They know if they've lost their dog, if there's a dangerous dog next door, you know, they sometimes go. What other issues can y'all help people with?
Okay, anything to do with an animal, within reason. We do not get the cats out of the tree. We don't have the means to do that. Certainly if a person finds a bat inside of the home, we want to send that off for testing.
Oh, you use bats?
Because
See,
the rabies, yes, the rabies, there is a concern of a rabies virus, so we will send those animals off. Possums, snakes, things inside of the home, we will come out and we will remove them.
Okay.
Yes. To me, though, that's not an emergency call, so if you call at 3 o'clock in the morning, you've got a possum in your house, I may ask you if you can safely, you know, open the door for a few minutes, let it try to run out, or wait until in the morning, because I always ask people to keep in mind that our animal control officers work their shift during the day.
Right.
They're on call at night, so if you call at 3 o'clock in the morning, they've already worked their shift during the day, and they have to come out in the night.
Yeah.
So we like to send them out for animal bites, and that's to place an animal under quarantine, because if an animal bite does occur, we place the animal under a 10-day quarantine. Doesn't mean we want to take the animal, doesn't mean we want to put protective measures on the animal if we don't have to.
So let's say that an animal does come into my yard and I do get bit. Should I call the sheriff or should I call you?
Well, same thing.
Okay.
It's
get that clear.
Yes,
okay.
Same thing. We have a number, 253-1195, which has always been the animal control number. If you dial that number, it transfers to our communications division.
Okay.
So I ultimately would like to change that number to our communications number. For now, though, you can still dial either number and get to us.
And you will get where you need to go no matter what.
Yes, you will get where you need to go.
Okay. Is there any other weird things that people just don't know about animal control that you really want folks at home to know? That you can help them with or that you can't and they really should call somebody else?
You know, actually, any question we're willing to answer.
I love that.
We love it. We do, truly. We'll come out and we'll talk with groups. If there's a problem in the neighborhood, we'll come out and talk with the neighborhood. We'll come out and talk with any civic group. We'll sit face to face with you and talk with you.
So if there's any animal question, really, that they have, you can just call and they will straighten it out. Explain the ordinance that we've gone over, explain how to get these things done. Spay and neutering is also huge, and I know you guys are big on that, wanting people to get their animals spayed and neutered.
We are indeed. In fact, it is our policy that if we come to your house for whatever reason, and your animal has not been spay or neutered, we will write you a citation, and then we'll drop the citation if you either comply or get an unaltered permit.
Right. Now, I'm going to end with this because this is a big question.
Huge.
Huge.
I know where you're going.
Barking dogs.
Yes, ma'am. Barking dogs.
As this community gets more populated and we scooch in together, barking dogs is a problem. I know we had one at our house, and we just called the neighbor and said, please do something. Thank goodness they did, and they resolved it. However, that's not always the case.
Not always the case.
What should people do?
And in some instances, people feel like they can't talk with their neighbor, or they don't want their neighbor to know that they're the ones that call. The best thing to do is go ahead and call animal control and let us talk with the neighbor. What we'll do is we'll send an officer out. But if we cannot prove that the dog is barking, we cannot do anything. So we have to put it back on the person who is actually suffering and hearing the barking. And we ask them to keep up with the log. And then after a couple of weeks, they turn the log into us. We have a barking dog panel, believe it or not, that reviews the case. And if they find that everything's in order, they will send the complainant a letter telling them that they can go to the magistrate's office and take a warrant. So, if your dog is barking and it is a nuisance, your neighbor can take a warrant on you.
Right. So there is a way to get results.
Yes, ma'am.
But the best thing to do is contact the neighbor and say, this is an issue.
Yes, or
if you can,
us. Yes.
or contact you.
Right. And we'll contact the neighbor. We try to make that our first step. Anytime that we get a call, we try to contact the neighbor first, and we'll let them know what the process is. We'll say, the process is starting now, and you need to know that if this continues to be a problem, your neighbor has the right to take a warrant on you, which means you go to jail, you go to court.
Right. And if folks at home, because this broadcast goes out to people all over Buncombe County and in the municipalities, if they're not sure who to call, they can call you and you will get them to the right place.
Yes, exactly. The only municipality that we are in charge of in this county is Black Mountain. We take care of all of their animal control calls. For the other cities, they, by ordinance, have to have their own ordinance and their own animal control department unless they adopt ours.
Right, but you can straighten them out on that.
I can tell them who they need to talk with. We love resources. We can't always take care of the problem ourselves, but we can direct you where you need to be.
That's right. Thank you, Helen.
Thank you.
Yeah, and we hope this information's helped you. Like I said, if we went too fast, you missed some of it, hey, watch it again. If not, log on to buncombecounty.org and all the information will be there for you. And stay tuned. We're out here at the sports park, and if you've just watched the episode that we did with Helen Hall, which was very interesting about animals on leashes and leash law and all the things that you don't want to do, you'll remember that she told us you should always have your animal on a leash. Well, she called back and said, please tell people something I forgot. Out here at the sports park, this is the soccer fields and all kinds of stuff. We're out here with Ben Parker today, but I wanted to tell you for her that if you're out here with your animal, with your dog, please make sure it's on a leash, because they're having a lot of trouble with people coming out here, letting their dogs out of the car, and they just go running, and then our staff have to go and tell them, please put your dog on a leash, and if they don't, Helen's going to get a call, and you don't want that to happen. It's really for your safety, the safety of the animal, the safety of kids, so just always remember, keep your animals on a leash at all times. So, with that said, Ben Parker, Corporal, correct?
Yes.
Ben Parker with Crime Prevention. We've talked to him before. You've been out here with us actually at this park before.
We've been here.
To talk about public safety. And he's your crime safety with the Buncombe County Sheriff's Department, correct?
Right. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And why are we out here today? Because summer's coming and there's lots of tips, and I have a great piece of paper that Ben gave me when we got out here about child safety, and he and I are going to have a conversation about that. And then stay tuned, because we're going to talk about vacation safety and things as people get ready to leave their homes that they should do. Well, some tips you're going to give us that they should do around the house. And then a certain thing you can do by calling the sheriff's office to get an extra patrol. But we'll come back to that in just a minute. First, I want to talk about this. And this is a great piece of paper, and I know it's got lots of tips on it, and we're going to make this available to our folks at home. But I know that a lot of people, you and I have just talked about this, think that Buncombe County is a really safe place. And in a lot of times it is. It's a great place to live, but there's crime here.
There is.
There is. There is. And we need to be prepared for it, not just our kids, but us too.
Right.
What is some of the stuff that you guys see going on that you would really like to see parents enforce with their kids? And just go over with them.
Right. Well, you know, we get complacent as adults.
We do.
With our surroundings, and we do feel safe most of the time, and it is a safe place to be. But as the economy suffers and it takes a hit, crime's going to go up. Statistically, it's just, you know, the way it is. What we need to do as parents, you know, we reinforce those rules that our kids need to, you know, abide by and to stay safe. The thing that we do as adults is we think it's not going to happen to us. We're more focused in on keeping our kids, not being alone, not talking to strangers, you know, trying to stay out of harm's way. But we as adults tend to think, well, you know, we're adults, it's not going to happen.
And it is happening.
It's happening.
Tell me about an incident that you were just saying, we won't say where, but it's happening here to older people. Like me, older women.
Well,
not a kid anymore.
There's two specifically I can recall that's happened within the last 2 or 3 weeks at different businesses here in the county, where adult women have been approached by males unknown to them, just striking up conversations, you know, asking them questions, personal questions, following them around, kind of almost stalking them in a way that they're feeling uncomfortable. They've even told these people get away. Right. Followed them out in the parking lots and things of that nature. You know, if you're approached, we tell our kids to make a lot of noise and bring attention to yourself. Right. We as adults don't want to, you know, we're like,
we don't want to cause a scene. You know.
So, you know, we need to say, look, you know, I've already told you to get away. So start calling people to your attention. Say, I need security. I need a manager. Get me some help. Call the police department or sheriff's office. Wherever you're at, these people will leave you alone.
So we preach this to our kids. You know, if you feel uncomfortable, and that's the number one thing, if you feel uncomfortable that somebody is touching you, approaching you, talking to you in a way that you don't feel comfortable with, you go tell an adult, you make some noise. Right. But that applies to us too.
Definitely.
And that we don't think that way. I mean, we just don't. Right. I would say, oh, get away from me. I don't want to cause a scene. But sometimes you need to cause a scene. Well,
but what we want to stress is to keep yourself or to avoid getting in that kind of situation. Don't go shopping alone. Don't go to the park alone. Don't go running alone. Take someone with you. Have a buddy with you.
And that's what it says right here. Right. It says, you know, don't do it alone. And we were just saying, well, we tell that to our kids, but how often do we see people, like I was just telling you, running on the parkway, long stretches, women all by themselves? That's not good. It's not. Take a buddy.
Not a good plan.
No, it's not a good plan.
Because you're going to find yourself in a situation of, you know, then you're going to be reactive.
Right.
And then, you know, how are you going to summon help? Not only if you're approached by someone, but like you said earlier, what if you become injured? Right. You know, anything could happen. Right. Sometimes you don't have cell phone service where you may be. So, you know, having a plan.
So these rules that we preach to our kids apply to us too. It's just like this first one says, don't forget your older children. Children age 11 to 17 are equally at risk. And you know, when kids get 17, 18, they're invincible. They think they are. They think that these little kiddie rules don't apply to them, but they do.
They do. We you know, in order for us to keep our kids safe, we have to stay safe. It applies to us just as well as it does. Even more so for our kids, but you know, as adults, we need to be aware and be vigilant.
We need to practice what we preach.
We do.
Absolutely. And I love these general tips for parents. Make sure you know where each of your children is at all times. You remember the old TV thing? It'd come on at 11 o'clock and it would say it's 11 o'clock. Do you know where your children are?
You know where your children are.
Yeah, that's a good, you know where they are, you know, especially as they get older and they get out and about. Never leave children unattended in a vehicle, whether it's running or not. Do you see that happening around here at all?
I do, not as much as it used to be, but there are times that it happens.
Yeah.
I think more people are more cautious with their animals than they are their kids sometimes. And,
that's true.
You know, we need to watch out for them.
It's kind of like Helen would say, keep your dog on a leash, keep your children within eyeshot, especially if you're out in a park like this, where they could disappear in a second. Be involved in your children's activities. Listen to your children. These are all such good tips. This is a big one. Be sensitive to any changes in your child's behavior or attitude.
Sometimes they don't know how to express themselves verbally. but you as your parent, you know, you're going to know
Yeah.
something's wrong, and just try to talk to them. And, you know, sometimes, depending on their age, you can play certain games with them
Yeah.
and get the answers that you're, you know, hopefully they're going to, you know, get that to you.
And then tell you what's going on with
Right.
them. That's right. Be sure to screen babysitters and caregivers, and that goes along with one of the things that was just glaring to me that I saw back here. It said that one of the myths is that strangers are the biggest myth, and not always. It's sometimes kids get into trouble with people that they know.
Yeah, it's either, it could be a family member, an acquaintance, you know, of their parents, could be a friend of their parents.
Right.
So, yeah, just being aware.
Be very aware.
Yeah, just
And
don't be too, you know, free with, you know, who you allow in your home.
don't
around
get
your
too
kids.
comfortable, because we do live in a beautiful place that feels very safe, and I'm very thankful to the work that you guys do to make us feel safe, but we need to do our own part.
We can't do it, you know, without the community's help. It's not. We're each responsible for keeping ourselves safe, our kids, watching out for our senior citizen population, our neighbors. If we don't have that unity with the communities helping us watch, you know, it's really, it's hard for us to do. We
That's the
can't.
key,
There's no
yeah.
way we can be everywhere at every minute. So we plead with the community all the time.
Yeah.
Please call us. Watch out for your neighbors.
And that's another thing that I don't want to forget that we're going to talk about, so I'm just going to skip to it right now since you just said that. Please call us. You do want to interact with the community. You do want the community calling you. And with vacation season coming, and we're talking about kids, because kids are going to be out and about. What a winter we've had. They're
Right.
going to get out, so you want to keep them safe. But we're also going to be vacation season.
Right.
You'll be leaving your home. And there's a special thing that the sheriff's office can do. If you're going on vacation, they can call. Tell me about that.
Yeah, it's real simple. You know, make plans. You know, you want to stop the newspaper coming. Have a trusted friend or neighbor get your mail for you.
Right.
But beyond that, you can call and have extra checks or request extra checks from an officer, you know, to come by, and they'll check periodically when they can, depending on call volume.
Right.
But as long as we know.
Let's say you're going to be gone for 2 weeks. They might throw a few extra drive-bys in
Sure,
there.
they'll drive by.
They'll
They'll actually check your doors, you know, to your house, and let your neighbors know. Say, hey, you know, you may see an officer come by,
Right.
and have that person, their neighbor, introduce themselves to the officer and
Right.
say, you know,
You guys want that. You want to know
Right,
the
we wanna
community.
know. We
Yeah.
wanna know.
So I urge you to do that. If you're going to be out and about on vacation, we'll put the communication information up on the screen so you know who to call, where to call, and get this extra check. But to get to know you guys. And I know you do the neighborhood watch programs. You guys still do those. So
We do.
folks can call you and get hooked up with that too.
right? If they'll call, we'll schedule it.
Yeah.
And we always look forward to, you know, getting out with our communities and forming those partnerships.
Right.
That you know, have seemed to go away, and we want to bridge those gaps as best we can.
Well, it's a relationship. You got to keep it built. You got to keep knowing. But they're here for us to keep us safe and to help us to partner together with us. Before we go here, we run out of time. What are some of the tips that folks need to know as they're leaving this summer, or with summer with windows open and more open about out in the neighborhood? What can they do to keep their homes safer?
Well, even at home, you know, you've got to take precaution and locking doors, locking your cars. You know,
We've talked about that before. You should lock your car in your driveway.
You know, even while you're at home. I mean,
That's right.
it's a different day, and
is.
We've got to try to think. You know, not get so caught up in, you know, what the day-to-day activities and routines that we're doing, but mixing our schedules up, not being so routinish about everything we do, because somewhere someone is going to look for an opportunity. So we take those opportunities away from them by locking our doors, locking our windows,
Right.
you know, make sure lighting is good, putting timers in our homes.
And security systems are good,
They're
but
good.
you should not rely completely on that. You should still lock your doors. You
Right.
should still keep your windows.
Well, there's going to be a response time that, you know, even though it's advantageous to have those
Right.
security alarms on our homes, the alarm has to activate.
Right.
It has to be dispatched, and you know, there's a time delay,
That's right.
and you know, would-be criminals know this. So you know, we do risk assessments. Be happy to set that up. Takes about an hour of your time, and we'll schedule that and we'll come out and just give you some cost-effective suggestions on things you can do.
That to make your home more safe. And then we'll end with this. All these tips that we know adults know they should share with their children. When kids come home, they should lock the doors. Flip the lights on at night. All these things that they need to know. That apply. If it applies to your child, it applies to you. If it applies to you, it applies to your child.
Yeah, I mean, we got to train them up right.
That's exactly right.
And practice them.
That's right. Thank you, Ben.
Thank you.
Thank you for talking to me. I know we'll be back together before too long to talk about something.
Good.
Okay. And you, stay tuned.